Evening, everybody. Welcome out to Cabinet, 11th of July. Good to see you all. Fairly short agenda tonight. First of all, apologies for absence. Apologies from Councillor Eadie. I think that is it, isn't it? Yeah, excellent. Any declarations of interest on either of the two papers for us tonight? No. Excellent. As ever, if they appear during the meeting, please shout up and interrupt whoever's speaking so we get it recorded as early as possible. First of all, then, we've got a paper from Councillor Strachan, the medium-term financial strategy. Rob and Anthony, over to you.
Thank you, Leader. This is the initial review of the emergent medium-term financial strategy, which will, of course, make its way through various hoops before coming to full council next February, at the very end of the month. At this meeting, I'm asking for you to agree the timetable, the core principles, primary assumptions that we've made, and for permission to kick off the budget consultation, which of course is the statutory duty that we have to carry out. The eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that the dates have slipped a little because this report itself slipped from June Cabinet, but assuming that you're content with it this evening, we do hope that we'll be launching it later this week. The timetable, first of all, members, you'll see set out at paragraph 1.6. We are, of course, the top one of those meetings, although it's not the 5th of July anymore. It then returns to us as a cabinet in October and December before the final version in February. And in the meantime, we'll have touch points with overview and scrutiny. I know there's particularly a dedicated budget meeting planned for December, which hopefully will bear fruit in terms of positive proposals from scrutiny. The very cautious principles that you'll see set out at paragraph 3.7 are very close to those that we originally agreed in 2019. I have to say, I currently see very little reason to depart from those in the current arena, with, if anything, the uncertainty in local government having been added to by the loss of our minister last week for reasons that we're all aware of. And so we will bear with those for now. The updated assumptions you'll see at paragraph 3.8. I don't propose to go through those in detail this evening. I'll turn to the recommendations. There are, in fact, only two that I intend to move this evening, which is recommendation 2.1, which agrees the initial payments for the voluntary severance scheme to be met from the strategic priority budget that's attached to the Being a Better Council. It also will release some funds which were formerly allocated to the Coach Park project, which are no longer believed to be necessary for the delivery of that project. And members will be aware that that's moved around a little bit as the pressures and priorities on that budget have changed. So we are ready for it and ready to spend when we come to it, but at the moment it's changing a little. And paragraph 2.2, which delegates to me responsibility to agree the form and timetable for the budget consultation covering the forthcoming MTFS, and you will see that proposed consultation plan set out at Appendix C. And as I've said, I believe that we'll be in a position to launch that later this week, assuming that you agree it this evening. I'm not going to move paragraph 2.3. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed the scars on this document from previous iterations in which there were references to property acquisitions and indeed property disposals. There are none of those being moved in this iteration of the paper, and any of those will of course be brought to cabinet before they happen. And so I'm not seeking delegated responsibility to do that, because of course the value would fall far out with my delegated powers. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Councillor Strachan. Questions, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Leader. I've only got the one actually. Under paragraph 3.9, where we've got the MTF budget assumptions, the cost drivers. If I've read this correctly, the past service pension costs drop off a cliff between 2022 and 2024. What's the reason for that happening? Just so I sort of can understand it.
I'm going to turn to the man who compiled that graph, Anthony Thomas, and ask him to deal with that one for you.
So we brought a report to Cabinet in April about the latest pension fund valuation, and that kicks in from 2023-24 onwards for a 3-year period. What the actuary's done is he's changed the balance of the contribution. So what you will see is the line you refer to in green where it's significantly reduced, but the line above that has gone up. in red. So in terms of our current establishment and our budget, it produces a saving in that scenario for us for a period. If we were to grow the establishment, obviously it's gone up from 16.2% to 22% the variable element. Likewise, if we were to reduce it, so the balance has changed basically because the actuary no longer believes 16.2% reflects the cost going forward of pension contributions.
Thank you both. That makes a lot of sense to me. That's it for me. Thank you, Leader.
Right, thank you. Any more? Liz, Councillor Little.
Thank you. I'm pleased to see obviously the plan for the budget consultation. In previous years, we've always struggled to get a decent response to the budget consultation. So I'm pleased to see a full engagement plan, and let's hope we get some larger percentages back this time round. Thank you.
I agree. I mean, if I take any positives from previous ones, is that we have managed to increase engagement on a year-on-year basis previously. I repeat what I said last year, which is that we have had some very, very good qualitative data from those consultations, although it's difficult to argue that they have been representative in terms of response rates. But I think it's quite clear that this plan is well thought out. Hopefully, it will engage more people. The cabinet member for community engagement may find that he's a little bit busier than he previously had been, and so we'll get onto it as quickly as we can do.
Thank you, Councillor Lax.
I'm just going to say the same thing as Councillor Little, and perhaps when it says schools and colleges, it can be on the curriculum, balancing a budget. But no, I think that's good to see, given what's been said previously. We're trying everything we can to increase engagement rates. So it'd be interesting to see what improves and which demographics perhaps engage more going forwards, and what works.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite clear that there are areas that we're going to need to work a little bit hard to reach. I hope that this plan will do so, and members around the table know that there are other parallel projects which may improve our level of engagement with other demographics that will be coming forwards in due course. And I look forward to reaping the benefits from those as well, in terms of levels of engagement with certainly younger people in schools.
Great, thank you, Councillor Stratton. Any more questions? If not, no, let's move to the recommendations then. Thank you.
Very well. In that case, I move recommendation 2.1 and 2.2 on this paper.
All those in favour, you can indicate. Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Strachan. Thank you, Anthony, as well. It's the Councillor Strachan show this evening. Second item up is the Local Council Tax Support Scheme permission to consult. And Councillor Strachan, you're joined by Steve Woods.
I am indeed. Leader, it's remiss of me at the last item not to thank the finance team for their efforts in preparing that, particularly because I made a note to do so. But can I certainly place on record my sincere thanks to Steve Woods for all of his work in this, which has been very, very useful to me as a cabinet member to understand the scale of what we're actually looking at. We moved to paper on this at April Cabinet. I believe the scheme is now ready to move forward to consultation, and this paper really seeks only permission to launch that. Members will recall that our previous scheme was arguably rather overcomplicated, and that there were potential pitfalls within that scheme which could have locked some claimants into effectively permanent debt. I'm seeking to remove as many of those pitfalls as possible with the suite of options that we are planning to consult on going forwards. And we hope that we'll be able to move forwards into a scheme that's far more based on the ability to pay, which is far simpler for our claimants to access, and on the other hand, far simpler for us as a council to administer. I do have a clear preferred option. I've never sought to hide that, but I think it would be improper for me to comment further on those before the consultation is launched. And so I seek only permission to launch that consultation this evening. Steve, is there anything you want to add?
No, Councillor. The only thing I'd mention is that on Appendix A, we've worked through, or Martin Hunt and myself, I've worked through different options there, different options for schemes. So there's 5 different options there, of which there's approximately 1,800 potential winners from any scenario here. of changes. And of the losers, getting up to option 5, there's 369 proposed losers from this scheme, but they're the ones that will have the highest level of income applied to them. So there's very few losers from the scheme, and of them they've got the highest level of income and more of the ability to pay the council tax rather than the way the scheme is currently.
The only addition that I'd make to that is that where there are people who are adversely affected by this, and there are some who will find that they can access lower support as a result of their ability to pay, we have other options in terms of discretionary support by which we can support them, and we'll be dealing with that on a case by case basis.
Great, thank you both. Questions, Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, just a quick question on, and I think this is relevant to all the options because they're all income based. I get these income based. Are we looking to take into account savings that people may have as well, or is it purely income on this, or is the savings done via the income you might get off dividends and interest, etc.?
Yeah, there is the savings element of it. So there's a capital limit as is now. But it's basically just based on income, and there's a raft of disregards on the income side of it. But yeah, there's still a capital element on it.
Okay, cheers. I did have another question actually, if I can.
You'll see on each line within each option the number of things, the number of different elements that we're prepared to disregard, and the proportion of those that we're prepared to disregard.
Okay, cool. Cheers. Yeah. Any other question I've got? The option 5 that I think we're looking at it removes the band D cap. I believe for applicants. Just to understand that, were we seeing a number of people not being able to claim and they're asking to because of that band cap, or is that? I'm just trying to see what prompted was actually trying to solve with removing that cap.
Yeah, councillor, what happens with them? So they may be property rich but income poor. We were finding particularly some claimants don't qualify at all because of the band restriction, or qualify for a lot less. So there's been a number of them presenting for hardship relief on the basis of they may be house rich or a big house, but they haven't yet sold that property and are looking to move on. But there's been perpetual debt that's been brought about as a result of that. They may have found themselves on hard times, or the property's been left to them, or that sort of scenario. So it didn't actually cost a lot more from option 4 to option 5 in the grand scheme of things. And the proposal from that side of it was to make it open, with it, it's not costing a lot more money. But yeah, it was property rich, income poor particularly.
Cool. That's kind of what I asked about. And was it effective? And it's not costing much more. Keeps it simple, doesn't it? I think I did have one more question, but for some reason I didn't write it down. Now, if I think of it, I'll chip back in. Thank you, Doug.
Excellent. Any more questions?
You're going to have to think quickly, Andy.
Yeah. So I think, and Steve, just for my own understanding, I think what we're saying is the reason we're going for option 5, or option 5 is being suggested, is that it doesn't actually create the most amounts of winners, but it does create the fewest people who are affected negatively by it, and where they are affected negatively, it tends to be people that have got a larger cushion, as it were, to be able to absorb any impact on them, as I understand it.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think when we were working beyond option 5 to see whether we could make it any more generous to make less losers, what we were finding was the winners were gaining more, and we weren't finding any more reduction in losers. As you'll see from sort of the difference between option 4 and option 5, it's not actually gained that many more winners. And we were just thinking, right, well, we don't want to just give everybody more or make the winners better winners. But that's where we got to.
Okay, fully get that. Councillor Cox.
I might be I've missed it. When does the consultation actually start? I can't see it on the paper, but
Yeah, as soon as we can. As
so
soon as
you haven't actually set the date.
As
and
soon
so
as you
forth.
agree it, we can
Yeah.
start.
And then what period of consultation is it going to be?
It's a 12-week consultation.
Thank you.
We've actually extended it slightly because it's going to be taking place over the summer period, so we want as many people as possible to be able to respond.
Excellent. Councillor Lax has got a question. I think Councillor Smith.
It may be due to not being totally familiar with this system till we've had these papers come through. But have we had an exceptional hardship scheme previously? My first question, and if so, is this a modified one or
So
different criteria?
So councillor, so there is an exceptional hardship as part of the council tax collection side of things. So there's section 13A relief. We don't get many applications on that perspective, but Nikki Begley, who deals with the revenue side of it, does get some that she'll present to me, and it'll be particularly hardship grounds, and some of them have been because of finding themselves in a situation with a big house and haven't yet been able to sell and things like that. But yeah, what this does, if it's agreed, it would be to set up a separate hardship scheme that is similar to the discretionary hardship payment scheme that we have on housing benefit. So it will look at their income and circumstances, and it'll be an actual application process similar to discretionary housing payments.
Okay, thank you. I think it's good. It's different to the collection of council tax in some ways, because this is a different thing, isn't it? So, thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, so this is, I think I asked this, just to confirm, this proposed scheme is only for claimants that are under pensionable age. Have I understood that correctly? Pensionable age get a different.
That's right. So it is, you're correct. It's the working age that this applies to. We're legally not entitled to change the pensioner scheme. That's statutory led by the government. So it will just impact on the working age. It'll help them, and in some cases not.
Got it. Cheers.
Okay.
Any more? No. Okay, excellent. Councillor Strachan, over to you for your recommendations.
Thank you, Leader. I move recommendation 2.1 that we approve the introduction of the bounded scheme, and recommendation 2.2 that we approve the commencement of consultation with the public and with major precepting authorities about the proposed scheme.
Great, thank you. All those in favour, show. Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Strachan. Thank you, Stephen, as well. That brings us to a close of the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.